And now to the latest on the pandemic and the Biden administration's vaccine mandates that it now turns out could cause holiday chaos for travelers. United Airlines is in the process of firing hundreds of employees who are refusing to comply with the mandate to get vaccinated. Pilots unions for American and Southwest, they're asking the White House for exemptions for their pilots to the president's vaccine mandate, warning this could trigger a holiday travel nightmare. So for more than this, I want to bring in American Airlines pilot and spokesperson for the Allied Pilots Association, Captain Dennis Tager, who joins us from the Charlotte Airport. Captain Tager, thanks very much for being with us on this important issue.
Thank you for having us.
So more than 4,200 of American Airlines pilots, 1,400 pilots are still unvaccinated, I understand. You can correct me on that. That's about 30%, if I do the math correctly, of Americans' pilots. So why is that happening, do you think? And why are unions asking for an exemption for those unvaccinated pilots?
Yeah, we have nearly 10,000 of our pilots that have chosen to get vaccinated. For those, the 30%, your numbers are about right. It's about 4,000. Are very concerned. See, pilots have an FAA medical. I just got through mine every 6 months, approximately. As captain, I have to do that. And any condition that we have that might affect our health has to be reported. And there is concern by our pilots that if they get the vaccine and they have a reaction, because the FAA already says you're not flying for 2 days. I personally made the choice to get vaccinated, and I was off the flying for at least 3 days. So they're concerned about the long-term effects and how that will keep them out of the profession. Because if you don't have an FAA medical, you don't fly. So what our president has done at our union is tried to come up with a common ground where if you have a proof of natural immunity or we go with frequent testing, you're still able to fly. Because ultimately the goal, even with the government investment that saved the airline industry, is we want to make sure there are pilots on the flight deck this holiday season when this mandate kicks in, and that we don't have any issues like we had some of this summer due to management on inability to fully train our pilots to be ready for the recovery. So that's what we're trying to do here is.
Thank you, Captain Tager. I just want to follow up on that sense that taking the vaccine might lead to days off or troubles for pilots. Doesn't COVID have a much more terrible potential to take you off the job by either killing you or giving you long-term health issues? Why isn't COVID a much greater threat than the vaccine?
You have some equal threats as viewed by our pilots who have said, hey, I need a minute on this. And many of them have said, look, I've already had COVID and I have the natural immunity, which many of our citizens in any profession could say. But what's unique for pilots is that the long-term effect, if they've made it through COVID and they're obviously flying, the long-term effect for the vaccine, they're calling to question if it happens to them, they've got no place to go, because without that FAA medical certificate, you don't fly and you don't have a job. So we're trying to find, it's a challenge. This is not an easy subject. It can be very emotional, and we see it in our neighborhoods. But what's unique for pilots is this medical standard we have to hold. And some of our pilots are very concerned. And frankly, at American, the safety net, should you lose your job, long-term disability is one of the worst in the industry. But I think our pilots are really focused on, look, I want to be able to fly and take our passengers where they want to go and sustain and grow our airline and our industry and keep this recovery going.
Fair enough. We're under the impression that there have been no reports from airline pilots at this point, thus far, losing their medical certificate because of the vaccine. So what are the potential career-ending side effects that are mentioned in the letter that the APA, the Pilots Association, has written to the government to qualify for this exemption?
Well, and that is what our pilots are looking at. We're trying to get them all the information, but there's concern. You talk about long-term effects. These vaccines just started. So while I've embraced the vaccine, our other professional pilots are saying, hey, I'm concerned if a blood clot issue or a heart issue that happens, and even though some have been reported in their short term, they're trying to approach this in a disciplined, professional way, the way pilots address a potential issue on the airplane. So as a union, we are representing solutions for all of our members, and ones that keep our passengers, fellow crew members safe and keep our airline flying. So that's what this is about. We're proposing this. It's not a heels in the ground. It's, hey, there may be another way to get this done so that we can keep our pilots flying. Because you could have pilots that have an effect and suddenly they start falling off flight status. We're just trying to get ahead of this and provide an option for those who fit this criteria of the natural immunity with testing and frequent testing. It's not to say we just throw up our hands and say, no, we're not going to do anything about this. It's a very disciplined and detailed program to try and get to the common ground on this. And that's what we're trying to propose. And
Fair enough. Those negotiations continue, and we'll keep on top of them. I do want to ask you about the holiday travel people are looking at. Look, pilots, everybody knows you guys have a tough job. You've been on the front lines yourselves of this pandemic at an elevated risk of illness since the beginning. And unions representing both Southwest and American Airlines say the 60-day timeline for this requirement could have a significant impact on holiday travel. That's what a lot of us are worried about because you fly us around. If pilots who chose not to get vaccinated are forced off the job, what's your assessment of the kind of holiday travel season we're looking at here? And should travelers avoid flying some of these airlines because of the possibility of mass cancellations? What do you think?
Well, if you have, in our case, 30% of our pilots, maybe then the band narrows a little bit, but you talk about Southwest. There's also regional affiliates. There's other airlines in the headlines, United and Delta, but there are a myriad of other airlines. So if you have that much operators out of the system, as our airlines plan on flying a very full schedule this winter, it's not going to be good. The fact remains you've got to have the pilots in the cockpit to fly the airplane. So we're trying to come up with something that gets that done and also protects our passengers, fellow employees. So I'm sure it's challenging, and there's a lot of like the noise behind me of the jet pulling up, a lot of noise on this that's rightful and needs to be considered. But we're about trying to find a solution here before we approach the storm and get something done so that we have a reliable and fulsome holiday travel season.
All right, Captain Dennis Tager of the Allied Pilots Association, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for what all your members do, and good luck getting this resolved. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.